An 11-year-old boy dreams of becoming a great supervillain when he grows up. To help him achieve this goal, his greatest idol decides to train him in the art of villainy. Today we will recap the story of the 2022 movie, Minions 2: The Rise of Gru. Bell Bottom is a very talented supervillain. Despite being alone in this operation, she manages to throw off the agents of the Anti-Villain League easily and gets into her hiding place, which is in an establishment disguised as a record store. After riding down the elevator, Bell is reunited with the other members of the Vicious Six, a group of villains led by Wild Knuckles. The woman hands her boss the map to the legendary Zodiac Stone. Together, the villains develop a plan to steal it in order to become the most powerful bandits in the world. The next day, the group leaves for Asia and finds a waterfall, where 2 large dragon towers have been built. After observing the map carefully, Wild manages to trigger the statues and the dragons begin to let off fire, revealing the cave opening where the Zodiac Stone is hidden. The old man enters that mysterious place alone while his cronies are waiting for him outside. As he descends the stairs, the steps drop down, forming a ramp that Wild slips down. He is thrown into a thorn trap, where other invaders have previously lost their lives, but luckily his body is not punctured. The man then gets up and walks towards the stone, which is floating right in front of him. After risking his life, he finally manages to accomplish the mission, but before he can get his hands on the jewel, the door closes behind him and small creatures appear to eliminate him. Several metal monsters attack him at the same time, but Wild steals their weapons and manages to destroy them with his blows. Then he takes the Zodiac Stone and the spirit of the 12 animals of the Chinese horoscope merges into the medallion. At that instant, the ground begins to move and the villain is taken back to the surface, where he finds hundreds of soldiers identical to those who attacked him before he took the jewel. Since those creatures are now in great numbers, all that is left for Wild is to try to escape, hoping that his team will show up to save him. As he expected, the Vicious Six arrives in a flying car and throws a rope so that their leader can climb up. The man celebrates the success of the mission and shows the Zodiac Stone to his friends. Then Bell steals the jewel and says there is no more place for the old man on that team. It was Wild who created that group and expected loyalty from his partners. However, this does not stop the villains from betraying him and Jean-Claude cuts the rope, causing the man to fall into the sea. Gru is an 11-year-old boy who is a big fan of Wild and was very sad when he received the news of his death. While most children dream of pursuing careers as doctors, firemen, and teachers, Gru's ultimate goal is to become a supervillain when he grows up. When they hear this, all his classmates laugh at him, thinking it was a joke. But what his teacher and the other students in the class don't even realize is that, at the age of 11, Gru is already on his way to fulfilling his dream. At the end of class, the children are greeted by their parents, who are at the school gate waiting to take their children home. However, in Gru's case, it is the minions who are waiting for him. Kevin, Stuart, and Bob are extremely happy to see their mini-boss and get on their turbocharged bicycles to go to the movies. Arriving at the screening, they find the room packed, so Gru drops a stink bomb inside so that everyone runs away and the group can watch the movie alone. Then they go to a game room and the minions help the boy cheat at all of them. His last stop is the ice cream parlor, and Gru hits all the customers with his cheese ray so that they don't have to wait in line. As if they haven't practiced their villainy enough already, the quartet takes their ice cream right in front of a gym, to make fun of the people who are killing themselves while riding their bikes. When he gets home, the boy finds a package from the Vicious Six in the mailbox and gets into his mother's car to hear the message contained on the tape. In it, Belle states that she has received an application from Gru to become the 6th member of her team, since Wild is dead. The woman informs him that the villain will need to go through an interview, which will take place the next day. She gives him the address with the password, and soon after, the tape explodes. Happy with the news, Gru enters the house to tell his mother what has just happened and is startled to find her doing yoga with her new teacher. Therefore, he gives up telling the news and goes to the basement, where all the other minions are gathered. They are building Gru's first evil lair and the boy asks them all to gather together to receive an announcement. He tells them that he will be interviewed by the Vicious Six and Otto goes to congratulate him. The problem is that the short guy doesn't stop talking for a minute and not even his colleagues can put up with him. After breaking the news to his only friends, Gru goes to bed, because he needs to rest in order to be in his best shape the next day. In the news, Belle makes an announcement to all the villains of the world. She tells them that in 3 days, when midnight falls and Chinese New Year begins, the Zodiac Stone will grant powers to the Vicious Six. On that day, they will become the most powerful villains on Earth and intend to eliminate, once and for all, the Anti-Villain League. Surprisingly, Wild survived the crash and destroys the TV when he sees the news. The man plans to carry out a revenge against his traitors and trains with his new henchmen a way to defeat them. That morning, Gru is as happy as he has ever been. The boy sings and dances as he prepares for his interview, and when he leaves the house, he is surprised to see Kevin, Stuart, and Bob waiting to accompany him to the interview. Months ago, the minions showed up at Gru's house because they saw his "Help Wanted" ad. Since then, they have never been apart again. But now the boy intends to pursue a career with the Vicious Six and dismisses his helpers. The three little potatoes decide to follow him, and Gru quickly arrives at the record store. He says the password to the store clerk, who is testing his new invention, which he calls Sticky Fingers. The man introduces himself as Dr. Nefario and hands the boy a small record. When Gru enters booth 3, the man hands him his first villain device and asks the boy to play the record backwards. As he does so, the elevator quickly descends and Gru runs into the other villains who were waiting for the interview in the waiting room. Minutes later, the boy is called and is thrilled to see his great idols right in front of him. Upon seeing the boy in person, Belle discovers that he is just a child and not a short man as she believed. Therefore, the woman sends the brat back home and states that villainy is for adults who steal powerful ancient stones and not for children who should be in school. At this time, another supervillain, Rocket Man, enters the room and demonstrates his abilities. However, the guy causes a great deal of damage and must be stopped by the team. So Gru takes advantage of this moment when the whole team is distracted to steal the medallion with the help of the device he got from Dr. Nefario. By the time Belle realizes what has happened, the boy is already running away and Stronghold destroys the bridge so that he cannot cross. Gru manages to escape, however. When he returns to the store, an alarm is triggered. Dr. Nefario soon realizes what has happened and orders the boy to run away. Across the street, on top of a building, is Wild. The man is watching the hiding place with binoculars when he sees a boy running from the store. Gru meets his minion friends and they run away together. Otto is there too, and now the boy will have to deal with 4 clumsy little guys while trying to escape from the supervillains. Svengeance chases them with his roller skates until he is lured into an alley and comes face to face with a door. As they descend the stairs, Otto and the magic stone end up falling, and Gru asks the minion to take the medallion to his hiding place while he distracts the villains. Jean and the crazy nun run after the boy, but Gru manages to get rid of them. Then Belle attaches her rope to the boy's bicycle, but he uses the turbines to get rid of her. When he gets home, the mini-villain tells them what happened and states that when he goes to return the stone to the Vicious Six, they will have to recognize him as a great villain and accept him into their team. Minutes later, Otto appears and Gru asks him where the stone is. Then, the little guy tells him that on the way home, he came across a birthday party and was in love with the gift the boy got. So he decided to exchange it for the medallion. Furious, the boy picks up his pet rock and walks toward the address where, according to Otto, the party took place. While watching his mini-boss walk off alone in the rain, Kevin sees the moment when he is forcibly taken away and runs to try to save him. However, he soon realizes that he will not be able to reach them. When he arrives at Wild Knuckles' hideout, Gru is surprised to discover that the great villain he admires so much is still alive. The man orders the boy to hand over the Zodiac Stone to him and threatens to throw Gru out the window when he finds out that he doesn't have the medallion. Wild forces the boy to call home for ransom and Kevin answers the phone. At this point, the old man says that if the minion doesn't get the stone to his home in San Francisco in the next 2 days, Gru will be eliminated. Upon hearing this, Kevin becomes desperate and asks Otto to show them where he left the stone. The little guy then leads his friends to the brat's house and the trio asks him to return the medallion. The boy reports that he gave the necklace to his uncle, who has just come out of the garage with his motorcycle. Otto stands outside the house and sees the man with the medallion around his neck. In order to retrieve the object, the creature uses a tricycle to follow him. The minions are desperate, because they don't know how to find the stone. When they leave the birthday boy's house, they come across a bus on the way to the airport and decide to hitch a ride there. Their hope is to catch a flight to San Francisco and rescue their boss, even without the Zodiac Stone. Since they can't afford the plane fare, they disguise themselves as pilot, co-pilot, and stewardess and take control of the aircraft. Kevin quickly reads the instruction manual and takes off. Just as they are about to crash into the control tower, the minion manages to take off and begins the journey. As Kevin approaches his final destination, he makes an emergency landing, causing despair among the passengers. Bob tries to calm them down and Stuart freaks out in the airplane bathroom. In the end, however, everything goes according to plan and they arrive in San Francisco. In his mansion, Wild uses Gru as a guinea pig for his latest bizarre invention, the Disco from Hell. If the minions don't show up in the next 48 hours, the boy will be cut in half. With the city map in hand, Kevin guides his friends directly to the address Wild informed them of during the call. Bob is exhausted and ends up rolling down a hill. He gets stuck on the side of a train and hitches a ride. When they find the villain's house, they spot the goons and come up with a plan to go unnoticed by them. The trio disguises themselves as garden decorations, but are soon unmasked. The goons run after them and chase them all over town, until they manage to surround them in front of Chow's acupuncture clinic. Seeing the little ones being beaten, the woman tells her client that she will be back in 5 minutes and leaves to teach those cowards a lesson. Chow is a master of kung fu and uses her amazing skills to get rid of those guys quickly and send them away. After getting a hard beating, they claim that if the minions show up at their hideout again, they will be destroyed. Desperate to save their mini-boss, they ask the woman to teach them kung fu. Although she had promised herself that she would never teach martial arts to anyone again, Chow decides to make an exception and agrees to become the master of those little creatures. Meanwhile, at Gru's mother's house, the minions try to sell some kitchen items to the guests. Suddenly, the ceiling is destroyed and the villains interrogate the little guys until they discover that Wild Knuckles is alive and Gru has been captured by him. Now that they know the truth, the quintet heads to San Francisco to retrieve the stone and finish the mission to eliminate their former leader. Chow takes Kevin, Stuart and Bob to her private training room and decides to teach them some basic skills, but after seeing Stuart getting beaten up by a dummy, she realizes that she will have to change her training strategy. The woman shows how to use the power of the mind to break wooden boards with her head and ends up collecting a new failure. Her last option is to teach them to practice the most basic kung fu moves. But Stuart is more interested in practicing his dance moves. The next morning, after being beaten badly by Chow, Wild's henchmen resign, and the villain is extremely sad to have been abandoned by his team once again. He feels lonely, so he decides to release Gru, under the pretext that he needs the boy to do some housework. After traveling for several kilometers on his tricycle, braving rain and burning sun, Otto is about to be devoured by vultures when he finally finds the medallion. The object is on the neck of the biker, who stopped to help him when he realized that the little guy was not well. When he sees Otto's joy at picking up that stone, the man decides to give it to him as a gift and offers him a ride to San Francisco. At Wild's mansion, Gru has to perform his first task, which is to clean the pool. What he doesn't expect is that there will be pet crocodiles in there. The boy is almost devoured and Wild steps up to teach him how to clean up. He takes the sieve from Gru's hands, but when he goes to clean the pool, one of the crocodiles grabs the instrument with its mouth and pulls the old man into the water. He was about to be devoured when Gru holds the net and tries to pull him back onto the grass. However, one of the animals bites the handle, breaking it in half. So the boy decides to jump into the pool and confront the crocodiles to save the old man. As he catches his breath, Wild is moved by the boy's attitude. He could have run away while the criminal was being devoured, but he decided to risk his life to save him. The man knows that not even the members of his former team would do this for him. So, as a thank you, he decides to help Gru realize his dream of becoming a great villain. In order to help the minions find their inner beast, Chow takes them into a forest. However, after being kicked badly, Stuart is thrown far away and destroys several trees on the way. The woman then decides to take them back to the training room and accidentally, after sneezing, Bob manages to break the board. The little guy is so hard-headed that no attack is capable of hurting him, not even a metal safe. Now Chow feels that they are ready to level up and teaches her most powerful attack, capable of knocking down the enemy without even touching him. After several hours of training, the woman states that the trio is ready and they leave celebrating. However, what Chow meant was that they were ready to earn their junior badges in Kung Fu and not to face a villain. Wild and Gru prepare to carry out their first crime together. They enter a bank and the old man asks permission to take his grandson to the bathroom. After Wild has his retina scanned, a secret passage opens and they enter the evil bank. The two go to the cash register to get some money, and the villain simulates a heart attack. At this point, Gru starts screaming and asks for someone to help his grandfather. While everyone is distracted, the boy goes upstairs and uses his sticky finger to get the keys to the safe. In this way, he manages to complete the robbery. A nurse shows up and uses a defibrillator to try to revive Wild. Just as the man was about to die for real, Gru shows up and thanks the woman for saving him. Together, they walk back to the vehicle and the boy shows him that he has managed to steal the Mona Lisa painting. He is thrilled to realize that he has just performed a crime alongside his greatest idol and can't wait for the next one. That night, the minions return to Wild's house and take care when entering so as not to be seen by his henchmen. When they finally manage to break in, they realize that the place is empty. Soon after, the Vicious Five appears and destroys the house looking for the boy and the old man. Realizing that they are not there, the villains go out into the city to look for them, and the minions go after them. When Otto and the biker arrive in San Francisco, they say goodbye and the little guy gets stuck in the middle of the parade. The whole city is in celebration of the Chinese New Year. Upon arriving home, Wild can hardly believe his eyes. Everything the old man has built up over his entire life has been destroyed by the team he created himself. Gru tries to cheer him up, but the villain orders him to leave. At that moment, the boy has his dream destroyed and decides to go his own way. He gets in the cable car and makes his way to downtown, where he sees Otto having fun on top of the dragon. The little guy sees his mini-boss and they run to hug. At that moment, Gru discovers that Otto has found the stone and feels proud of him. The boy intends to take the medallion to Wild, but soon runs into the Vicious Five and tries to escape. Shortly after, he is captured by Bell, who manages to steal the Zodiac Stone from his hands. At this point, they are surprised by the arrival of the Anti-Villain League, but Bell still has a card up her sleeve. Just after midnight, the power of the medallion is released, transforming the villains into great beasts of the Chinese horoscope. The agents try to stop them, but soon realize that they have no chance of winning that battle. In order to punish the boy for stealing the stone, the dragon decides to tie him to the hands of the clock so that he will be broken in half. Kevin, Stuart, and Bob arrive before the worst happens and rush to help their mini-boss. Then Belle transforms them into zodiac creatures, but they remain diminutive in size. The villain uses her dragon flames to set that place on fire and is surprised to see Wild going through all that fire to face them. The old man teams up with the minions to defeat their powerful enemies while Gru is about to have his arm ripped off. When surrounded by the tiger, Kevin remembers Chow's words and searches for his inner beast. The rabbit then uses his super speed to defeat the animal that was about to devour him. The same happens to Bob. Finding his inner beast, the goat uses his horns to defeat the monkey and the demonic ox. Stuart was about to be crushed by the giant snake when he decides to strike back and throws dozens of eggs in its direction. One of them is not destroyed during the attack and gives birth to a chick. Amidst the chaos, Otto sneaks up on the clock and manages to free Gru. Just as he is about to retrieve the medallion, Wild is thrown away and Bell toasts him. Then the five villains team up to eliminate the boy, but the minions jump in front of him and use the attack they learned from Chow to defeat them. At that moment, the medallion falls from the dragon's neck and Gru manages to get it back, turning the villains into little rats. Minutes later, the ambulance shows up and Wild Knuckles is taken to the hospital. Silas, an agent of the Anti-Villain League, says that when he recovers, the old man will be sent directly to prison, and Gru is very sad to hear this. Days later, they hold a ceremony to say goodbye to Wild, who could not survive the burns. However, while giving his farewell speech, Gru spots the villain hiding behind a tree and has to disguise his joy at seeing him. The minions bury a coffin filled with bananas, and at the end of the ceremony, Gru and his friends return home with the great supervillain who faked his own death and managed to escape the authorities. After experiencing his first big adventure, Gru returns to the record store to talk to Dr. Nefario, who has become unemployed now that the Vicious Five has been arrested. The man is determined to abandon villainy, but the boy proposes that the scientist come to work with him. Dr. Nefario refuses the invitation, but goes back on his decision when he sees the cute faces of those little villains. Now that they are all part of the same team, the scientist unveils his newest invention, a giant flying boot. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.